Today, we are grabbing a topic that is, I think, sacred, universally desired, and yet it's just so constantly misunderstood.
The nature of love, right?
Exactly. Enduring love. And we're going to jump straight into something. Well, something that's, frankly, a little uncomfortable.
It's a truth that really, really challenges a lot of what we're taught.
It really does.
Yeah.
It's this idea, this powerful argument that we've been digging into from our sources, that love, and we're talking about absolutely real, genuine, deeply felt love, can still not be enough to save a marriage.
And that is the core tension, isn't it? If you ask anyone on the street what the foundation of a marriage should be, 99 times out of 100, they're going to say love.
Of course. What else would they say?
And our whole culture reinforces that. It insists that this pure emotion, especially when it's intense and mutual, is the ultimate guarantor of success. If the love is true, it just has to endure.
It's the magic ingredient.
It is. But our deep dive today, which is sourced from several pretty in-depth excerpts analyzing what they call the biblical blueprint for enduring marriage, suggests something completely different.
And what's that?
That we're focusing on the wrong thing. It's not just about the feeling. It's about what Scripture defines as the sustaining forces, the structural elements that have to exist underneath that affection to hold it all up.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Because what you're describing is a fundamental contradiction.
It is.
Between this popular belief, which is all about intense, singular emotion, and this ancient wisdom, which seems to treat emotion as, well, it's necessary, but just not sufficient.
That's the perfect word for it. Insufficient.
So our mission for this deep dive is to move past the romance novel fantasy, the Hollywood ending, and look at the actual construction plan, the blueprint for marital resilience. We really want you to gain a thorough understanding of the difference between the feelings that start a relationship, that vital spark, the ignition, and the deeper, frankly, non-emotional disciplines that are required to sustain it for decades.
And that differentiation is just so key. We're trying to provide some clarity on why genuine love so often ends in this heartbreaking failure. It's not always because the love died.
Right, so what is it then?
It's because the love was never rooted in a structure that was designed to carry the enormous inevitable weight of a shared life. It's about building a house that can actually withstand the storm, not just one that looks beautiful on a sunny day.
Let's start right there with the cultural narrative, because I think it really does set us up for failure from the very beginning.
It really does.
You flip on almost any romantic comedy you listen to, 90% of love songs. You scroll through social media, and you are just fed this pervasive, consistent message. It's simple and it's beautiful.
And what's the message?
If you love each other enough, everything will work out. That's it. That's the whole message.
That pure, strong, romantic emotion is the ultimate guarantor of success. It's this magical ingredient that will solve all the conflicts, heal all the wounds, and protect the relationship from any outside pressure.
It's the answer to everything.
And that narrative, it sets up an impossible and, frankly, a really damaging expectation.
How so?
Because it fundamentally confuses a motivational feeling with a structural foundation. They are not the same thing. So when love is promoted as the sole foundation, the moment that intense emotion dips, which it always will, it's inevitable.
Because of stress or just being tired or a disagreement.
Exactly, or just the natural rhythms of daily life. The moment that feeling dips, people panic. They immediately conclude the foundation is cracking, the marriage must be over. They equate a fluctuating feeling with absolute structural failure.
And isn't that the real trick of the cultural lie? It makes people feel like they failed as partners just because they didn't feel the right level of passion on a random Tuesday morning in year 15 of their marriage.
That's it, exactly. And the source material just completely counters this by pointing out what it calls the silent scriptural revelation.
Which is?
The Bible never makes the claim that love alone guarantees success or longevity or positive outcomes. It just doesn't.
That's a huge statement.
It is. In fact, Scripture quietly reveals that while love is absolutely essential, it's commanded, which implies it's an action, a discipline, it is not in and of itself the structural foundation of a marriage.
Okay, but let's push on that for a second. Isn't it true that most successful marriages do start with that intense chemistry, that emotional connection?
Oh, absolutely.
So if we just focus on character and covenant, aren't we telling people to ignore the vital spark that gets them in the door in the first place? How do the sources reconcile that?
That's a crucial clarification. The feelings, that incredible surge of connection and passion, what we might call eros, or romantic love, it absolutely initiates the relationship.
It's the spark plug.
It's the spark plug, the motivator, the powerful drive that makes the immense sacrifice of a lifelong commitment seem not just possible, but actually desirable. It's the engine's ignition. But the sources are crystal clear on this. Those feelings were never designed to be the sole force that sustains the commitment when the terrain gets difficult, when the emotional fuel runs low, or when external forces are, challenging the entire union.
So, to crystallize that thought, we're distinguishing between the ignition and the engine. The spark gets you going. But the engine, the reliable mechanics of commitment and discipline and character, that's what keeps the vehicle moving forward, regardless of the quality of the spark in any given moment.
You have to differentiate between the quality of the feeling and the quality of the structure. High-quality feelings, we're talking genuine, deep affection, can exist, but if you place them on a weak or an insufficient foundation, the structure will still collapse under pressure.
So we're culturally obsessed with the wrong thing.
We're obsessed with the intensity of the spark, when the biblical blueprint is constantly directing our attention to the durability of the bedrock. Love is, like, the beautiful, indispensable roof, but it just cannot carry the weight of the walls and the ceiling all by itself.
That distinction changes everything.
Yeah.
It reframes marriage not as some kind of perpetual feeling contest, but as a deliberate architectural project.
Yes.
So, if real love, genuine affection, isn't enough to sustain a marriage, the sources have to give us some dramatic proof of this. We need to see where real, deep affection actually led to a complete catastrophe.
And they do.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because the Bible gives us a stunningly tragic case study of love that was real but was ultimately fatal. We turn now to a devastatingly famous and highly analyzed relationship, the story of Samson and Delilah.
It's in the book of Judges, chapter 16.
And we're focusing on this case because it just perfectly demonstrates the central thesis of our sources. That genuine, intense love does not guarantee wisdom or protection or positive outcomes.
In fact, it can guarantee the exact opposite if it isn't supported by discernment.
And the first point of emphasis here is absolutely crucial for the whole analysis.
Yeah.
We have to verify the genuine emotion involved.
Right. This wasn't fake. The source material highlights Judges 16, verse 4, which confirms the love was not faked or pretended. It states it plainly. After this, he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah.
Not he was infatuated with or he desired. It says he loved her.
Yes. The term used suggests a deep, consuming affection, the kind that drove his choices. This was real love, the kind of love that dominates and overrides your judgment.
And the tragedy is just amplified by the fact that Samson was already bound by a sacred lifelong covenant that defined his entire identity.
His Nazirite vow.
The Nazirite vow, exactly.
And to really understand the gravity of his failure, you have to understand the weight of that covenant. The Nazirite vow from the book of Numbers was a vow of separation and dedication to God.
And it had specific rules, right?
It did. Really specific disciplines. You had to abstain from wine, you had to avoid dead bodies, and most visibly, you were never supposed to cut your hair.
Which everyone thinks was the source of his strength.
Which is a common misconception. The hair itself wasn't the source of his strength. It was the outward sign of his obedience to his dedication. His strength came from his obedience to God. The hair was just the symbol of that covenant.
So by continually giving away pieces of that secret to Delilah,
he wasn't just compromising with a girlfriend. He was systematically dismantling his covenant with God, piece by piece, driven entirely by his intense affection for a woman who was repeatedly, openly demonstrating her intent to betray him.
Which makes the failures of love alone just so painful to detail. Let's break them down. First, love didn't protect him from betrayal.
Not even a little bit.
Despite his intense feelings, Delilah was actively seeking his destruction, or at the very least, a huge financial gain from his downfall. The Philistine lords were literally paying her to find the source of his strength.
And this betrayal, it wasn't subtle. It wasn't a one-time thing where he slipped up. The source material notes that she attempted to bind him or weaken him 3 separate times before he finally succumbed.
3 times. So this wasn't a one-time failure of judgment on his part.
No, it was a repetitive, observable pattern of compromise. Love made him blind, it made him deaf, and it made him willfully ignorant to the clearest, loudest warning signs imaginable. He kept going back.
That brings us right to the second failure then. Love didn't give him discernment. He was so blinded by his affection that he couldn't see the obvious.
He was playing a dangerous game. He must have believed that the intensity of his feeling for her would somehow magically override her demonstrated character.
Which was relentless and mercenary.
Completely. He thought his love was the exception to her character.
It's the ultimate failure of judgment. His affection was the engine, like we said, but there were no brakes and there was no steering wheel. He just kept prioritizing the momentary feeling of connection, or maybe avoiding a fight with Delilah.
Right. He didn't want to upset her.
He prioritized that over protecting his entire covenant identity, which leads to the third and most profound failure. Love didn't save him from compromise.
No, his passion led him directly to disregard his sacred vow, his identity, and his commitment to his divine purpose for Israel.
And when you look at the consequences he faced, I mean, they're devastating, and they link directly to this lack of wisdom supporting his affection.
One for one. He lost his strength.
The visible symbol of his covenant, gone.
He lost his freedom. He ends up a captive, chained, grinding grain in Gaza.
And crucially, he lost his vision. Literally, they put out his eyes. It's such a powerful metaphor for his lack of discernment.
And most profoundly, he lost his purpose. The very reason he was placed on earth as a judge for his people. All of it, gone.
Because of a love that wasn't supported by wisdom.
That's what the sources stress. Love without wisdom is fundamentally dangerous. It becomes a vulnerability, not a strength, because it lacks discernment and it lacks boundaries. His love for Delilah was genuine, no one is disputing that. But because it wasn't filtered through sound judgment or wisdom or fidelity to his prior commitment, it led directly to his own destruction.
So the relationship collapsed, not because the feeling disappeared. He clearly still loved her, or he wouldn't have kept returning to her and compromising over and over.
Right.
It collapsed because the necessary structure of wisdom and boundaries was just absent from the start.
And that leads us to the critical synthesis from this example. Intense affection, when it's isolated, it cannot differentiate between what is good for your soul and what simply feels good in the moment. It is incapable of providing the necessary resistance to temptation or the clear-eyed vision you need to spot danger.
So the most intense feeling in the world can lead to the worst outcome imaginable.
If it's not supported by sound, covenant-keeping character, absolutely.
So if the core problem is that our culture relies on love as this powerful but ultimately unstable feeling, then we have to fundamentally redefine what biblical love actually is.
We have to.
We know that 1 Corinthians 13 is the go-to marriage scripture. I mean, you hear it at almost every wedding. Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast.
It's beautiful poetry.
It is, but the problem is that couples often stop short of the operative verses. They treat it as this flowery, romantic sentiment, just a description of the warm feeling they currently share.
And this is where the sources demand a radical rereading. We have to move love out of the realm of passive emotion and into the realm of active, daily decision-making. They explain this core redefinition. Biblical love, agape in the Greek, which means sacrificial, intentional love, is not merely a feeling, it is a discipline.
It's a commitment expressed through deliberate moral action.
Exact.
That is a profound distinction for anyone listening. If you just dissect every descriptor in 1 Corinthians 13, patience, kindness, not envying, not boasting. These are all verbs. They're actions.
Yeah. They are disciplines, and they require character and intentionality, often in direct contradiction to how you might feel in a given moment.
Can you give an example?
Sure. If your partner has wronged you, your feeling might be to escalate, or to retreat into silence, or maybe to seek some kind of retribution. You're hurt. You're angry.
Right. The natural emotional response.
But love, as a discipline, dictates a different choice. A choice to remain patient. A choice to show kindness, even when that choice is costly and it goes completely against your immediate emotional desires.
So you're saying that if you wake up feeling irritable, you're stressed about work, and you're annoyed at your spouse for leaving dishes in the sink again. Love is the discipline of choosing kindness anyway. It's the exercise of your will. A daily mundane decision, not just an overflow of happy emotion that appears automatically when everything is going well.
That is precisely it. It's the decision to listen patiently when you really want to interrupt and escalate, or the choice to forgive a repeated minor failure instead of holding a grudge.
And this discipline, this endurance, is right there in the passage.
It is. The discipline required for this kind of love is evidenced in the latter half of the passage, which focuses on endurance. You mentioned verse 7 earlier. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things.
The presence of that word, endures, is the structural clue we need.
It is. Why would love need to endure if it were just a self-sustaining, endless supply of pure, unwavering good feeling? It wouldn't. It needs to endure because it will be challenged. It will be tested by betrayal, by financial crises, by health scares, and by simple, grinding exhaustion over many years.
And if love must endure, then the source argues it can't stand alone. It's like saying a highly stressed structural steel beam has to endure a heavy load well. It needs stronger alloys and supports braided into its composition to do that.
A perfect analogy.
So what are these necessary supports? What allows this disciplinary love to survive the long haul?
The sources identify 4 critical components that must be present for love to move beyond fragility to security. And these aren't feelings, they are intentional attributes that you build through habit and belief.
Okay, what are they?
First is commitment. This is the foundational promise of remaining faithful regardless of circumstances.
Yeah.
This is the vow that holds things together when the feeling is gone.
The legal and moral promise.
Second is character. This dictates the ethical quality of your actions when nobody is watching. Can your partner be trusted when they are alone, when they are tempted? That's character.
That's like running a credit score for the soul. Commitment is the legal document you sign, but character is the long financial history that proves you're actually reliable.
I like that. That's a great way to put it. Third is faith. This provides the unified spiritual direction and the ultimate purpose for the union. It answers the question, why are we together? Beyond just mutual enjoyment or convenience.
The fourth.
And fourth is obedience, which means adhering to the divine blueprint for how to maintain a relationship, even when it's difficult or runs contrary to your own desires. This includes practical things, like shared financial transparency, or following a healthy, unified parenting philosophy.
This is a huge paradigm shift. Love isn't the whole building. It's one beautiful, indispensable, but ultimately supported beam.
Yes.
Which leads to the next logical question, one that the sources frame perfectly. If love needs these other attributes to survive, what then is the structure of marriage truly built upon? It implies the foundation has to be something far more robust than chemistry.
It shifts the entire focus from finding the right person, which culturally means finding someone who makes you feel right, to being the right kind of person.
The kind of person who can build and sustain a resilient relationship structure.
Independent of your temporary feelings, yes. So to understand that enduring nature of marriage, we have to delve into the 3 core components the Bible suggests marriage is actually built on. These are the pillars that replace the ephemeral nature of chemistry and feelings. They offer stability when life starts to shake the house.
And the first pillar gets at the absolute fundamental difference between a temporary arrangement and a lifelong vow.
Yeah.
We're talking about covenant, not chemistry. This is a deep dive into the legal and philosophical structure of the union itself.
Indeed. The source quotes Malachi 2, verse 14, where God refers to marriage explicitly as a covenant, the wife of your covenant. And this isn't just a semantic difference from the word contract. It defines the entire architecture of the union.
Okay, explain that difference. What's a contract versus a covenant?
A modern marriage is often treated like a contract. It's an agreement based on transactional fulfillment, performance, and mutual satisfaction.
You do this for me, I'll do this for you.
Exactly. And if one party stops performing, if they gain weight, lose a job, or simply stop making the other person happy, the contract has defined exit strategies. It's conditional. A contract primarily protects the individual's feelings and their own interests, particularly when things go sour.
So it's essentially a pre-negotiated termination agreement built right in.
In a way, yes, but a covenant. A covenant operates under a completely different logic. It's unconditional. It protects faithfulness. The Hebrew word is hesed, which is this idea of steadfast mercy and loyalty, especially during those inevitable times when feelings fade or shift or are actively challenged by hardship.
So it's a mutually sacrificial agreement.
It is. Often, a covenant requires one party to uphold their solemn promise even when the other party is temporarily faltering, simply because the vow itself is sacred and permanent. It moves the relationship from being conditional.
If you continue to satisfy me, I'll stay.
Right. To being unconditional. I have vowed faithfulness to you regardless of your external performance or my internal feeling.
That makes the shift from contract to covenant feel like, I don't know, the shift from a lease agreement on a car to adopting a child.
That's a powerful way to put it.
One has built-in expiration dates and conditions of satisfaction. The other is designed to be permanent, regardless of the cost, the frustration, or the changes that come.
And that's why wisdom has to be the architect, not romantic desire.
Right.
The source material highlights Proverbs 24, verse 3. By wisdom, a house is built, and through understanding, it is established. And notice explicitly what it says. Wisdom builds the house, not love.
Love might choose the location. You know, the initial desire to be with someone. But wisdom draws the blueprint.
Wisdom understands you have to plan for conflict, you have to plan for financial stress, for illness, for boredom. It's wisdom that sets up the structures, things like shared accounts, consistent communication habits, defined roles, conflict resolution techniques that will endure when your affection is momentarily paralyzed by pressure.
So, wisdom is the architectural plan. Covenant is the enduring, sacrificial material you use to execute that plan. It's the insight to understand that feelings will shift, and therefore, the structure has to be based on a non-emotional commitment.
On fidelity and sacrificial loyalty, yes.
So that's the first pillar. What's the second?
The second pillar focuses on the unity of direction. Shared faith matters more than shared feelings. The source directs us to 2 Corinthians 6, verse 14, "Do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers."
Now, this is a point that's often simplified to just mean, religious attendance. But the source emphasizes a much deeper concept here, alignment.
The metaphor of the yoke is crucial. What happens when two oxen are unequally yoked?
They can't pull straight. One is stronger or taller or just wants to go in a different direction.
Exactly. If the oxen are unequal in strength, size, or desire, they cannot pull away together. They pull against each other. It leads to exhaustion, injury, and zero forward progress.
And the sources say this can happen even when there's real love.
That's the key. Deep, consuming love can exist between two people, and yet they can still be profoundly unequally yoked. Love doesn't guarantee alignment. Faith, meaning a shared ultimate authority and worldview, does.
Love can bridge superficial differences, sure, like your taste in movies or hobbies.
Of course.
But when the foundational beliefs about morality, purpose, eternity, and your ultimate authority differ, those differences become deep, unbridgeable chasms when you have to make major life decisions.
Think about the practical application of this. When you face a severe crisis, say a job loss or the diagnosis of a serious illness, or deciding how to educate and raise your children, if your ultimate goals and your moral compasses point in radically different directions, love becomes insufficient to resolve the conflict.
So if one partner views suffering as just random, meaningless misfortune,
and the other views it as an opportunity for spiritual refinement and growth, that fundamental misalignment creates a friction that no amount of affection can truly absorb or fix.
a fight about money is never just about money, is it? It's about what money means and what it's for.
Always. If one partner's ultimate authority is self-fulfillment and personal happiness, and the other's is covenant duty and service to God, those values will collide repeatedly and catastrophically in areas like saving, debt, and charitable giving.
That's the so what of this pillar.
That is the so what. Alignment, or spiritual unity, is necessary to carry the weight of life and joint decision-making. Love can make the journey pleasant, but only alignment can ensure you are both heading toward the same ultimate destination, pulling in the same direction, especially when the path gets steep.
When the yoke is unequal, one person is just constantly dragging the other toward their own goal. That's gotta lead to exhaustion and resentment.
It does, even if the affection is still there, which makes it even more painful.
Okay, so covenant, alignment, and the third pillar reinforces stability. Character outlasts chemistry. This strikes right at the heart of our cultural obsession with physical attraction, magnetic personality, and the adrenaline rush of a new romance.
The source references Proverbs 31, verse 30, which draws a really stark contrast. Charm is deceptive, and beauty is fleeting. But a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. The message is so clear. The qualities that initiate that first burst of attraction, charm, physique, energy, are often the most temporary and superficial components of a human being.
Charm is deceptive. It's presentation, it's often carefully curated, and it can mask deep character flaws, narcissism, irresponsibility, selfishness, until the inevitable honeymoon phase wears off and reality sets in.
And beauty is fleeting. That's a guarantee. It will diminish with time, with stress, with illness, with age. You cannot build a 50-year relationship on an adrenaline spike that only lasted for 6 months.
So what's the alternative?
The antithesis offered is a person who fears the Lord, which implies humility, respect for divine order, and moral consistency. It's a descriptor of intrinsic, spiritual, and moral stability. While attraction fades and energy shifts and our bodies change, character remains the stable component upon which a dependable, enduring partnership can be built.
So when a marriage hits the 30-year mark, what's holding it together isn't the same rush of excitement that characterized the first year.
Not at all.
What remains is integrity, dependability, kindness, moral fiber. The qualities of character that make your partner reliable, trustworthy, and safe, regardless of how they look or how magnetic their personality is on any given day.
So prioritizing character over chemistry is choosing the quality that actually strengthens over time through discipline and faithfulness, rather than the quality that decays or shifts over time due to external circumstances. The sources position these three pillars, covenant, alignment, and character, as the non-negotiable structural foundation that gives love a safe, secure place to grow and endure. So now that we've established the foundation, we really have to address the quiet tragedy.
What do you mean by that?
The painful truth about why so many marriages fail, even when outside observers can see that genuine affection seems to persist between the separating partners. And we have to connect this failure directly back to those missing foundational elements we've just discussed.
This is the part that completely defies the movie trope, where divorce always means the love has died. Our sources suggest that's often not the case at all. The core affection might persist, maybe even painfully so, but the union still collapses.
It does.
I've heard countless stories of people getting divorced who still say things like, "I love him, but I just can't live with him," or "I'll always love her, but we can't be married anymore."
And that but is everything.
That implies a profound structural failure, not an emotional one.
Exactly. The tragic conclusion that the sources draw from these failures is that these marriages don't necessarily end because love died. They end because the structure supporting the love failed. The people are grieving for a lost partnership, not necessarily a lost love.
So love being the beautiful finish or the engine, like we said.
It was never designed to be the foundational cement or the load-bearing beams, so it buckled.
So let's detail the specific factors that destroy a union, even when that affection is still there. The source lists 3 specific structural failures that correlate directly to the 3 missing pillars.
Right. They are. Respect eroded, trust was broken, and spiritual unity was never there.
Let's take the first one, the erosion of respect.
This is tied directly to character. Respect is a product of observing consistent character and faithfulness over time. If one partner continually fails to live up to the implicit or explicit covenant, maybe through financial irresponsibility, emotional inconsistency, chronic criticism, or failing to uphold shared values, respect just begins to drain away.
Regardless of how much lingering affection remains.
Right. Affection can make you tolerate someone you don't respect for a while, but you cannot successfully build a life with someone you fundamentally disrespect. It's impossible to build a stable home on a foundation of contempt or condescension.
And trust. That seems like the practical application of character within the covenant.
It is. If character is compromised through infidelity or repeated lies about money, or just a failure to follow through on major commitments, trust is fundamentally broken.
And you can love someone who constantly lies to you.
But you cannot successfully run a joint life with them. You can feel deep affection for an unreliable person, but that affection can't fill the vacuum that's created by repeated betrayals. The relationship becomes unmanageable because the partnership component, the reliance, the shared decision-making, the security, is impossible without trust.
And finally, the lack of spiritual unity, the unequal yoke.
When that alignment isn't there and the inevitable weight of life hits, the couple fractures along their deepest fault lines. They may love each other deeply, but if they can't agree on the ultimate meaning of life or the direction of their children's moral education or how to handle their resources, every major decision becomes a war.
And that constant, exhausting friction driven by these unresolvable worldview conflicts eventually just overwhelms the affection. They simply cannot pull the yoke together.
The analysis provided by the source is just so clear. Love failed because it was carrying a weight it was never designed to carry alone.
It was carrying the weight of covenant fidelity, the weight of wisdom and decision-making, and the weight of unshakable character.
It was. And the collapse is therefore due to structural failure. A failure of engineering and materials, not the death of affection. The feelings just weren't strong enough to hold up the lack of discipline, integrity, and shared direction.
That's a harsh truth.
It's a harsh truth, but it's a necessary one for resilient building. If you expect a beautiful, decorative facade to carry the weight of the roof and the walls, it will buckle. The entire structure will fail, even if that facade was lovingly painted and polished. Love is essential, but it is not the structural engineer.
So we've covered the tragedy of love without wisdom with Samson, and the quiet tragedy of structural collapse in modern failures. Now let's transition to the positive. What does the biblical picture of what actually works look like?
The sources point us directly to the book of Ruth and the relationship she develops with Boaz. This story provides the functional blueprint for enduring, resilient commitment.
And what's interesting is that it doesn't start with a lightning bolt of passion.
Not at all. The sources emphasize that the relationship between Ruth and Boaz wasn't built on the kind of immediate, overwhelming passion or chemistry that modern narratives demand. Their story is a slow burn of honor, diligence, and respect for covenant law. It was built on observable, foundational attributes that proved their worth long before they ever considered marriage.
So what were those core ingredients? What made their union so resilient?
Their foundation was built upon demonstrated faithfulness, integrity, and obedience to God and his covenant laws.
Let's start with Ruth.
Okay, consider Ruth. She wasn't just a pretty face. She demonstrated profound faithfulness, that he said again, and obedience, by choosing to honor her mother-in-law Naomi and clinging to the God of Israel. She could have returned to the security of her own people and her own gods.
Which would have been the much easier path.
Much easier. But her commitment to a higher standard and her willingness to sacrifice comfort for duty, that was her primary asset. That was her character on full display.
And Boaz recognized this. He didn't see her and was just swept away by her beauty first. He was moved by her character, which he heard about secondhand before he even met her.
Exactly. He says to her, "All that you have done for your mother-in-law has been fully told to me." He was impressed by her reputation for faithfulness before anything else.
And Boaz, in turn, demonstrated his own character.
Yes, he demonstrated integrity, honor, and obedience by following the complex legal and moral codes of their community. He had duties regarding the protection of the poor and the duties of what's called a kinsman redeemer.
And he fulfilled them.
He did, perfectly. He treated Ruth with this protective generosity, making sure she was safe in his fields, and then he navigated the legal requirement to redeem her family line correctly and honorably.
So it was this mutual recognition of virtue that came before the romance. Boaz recognized Ruth's radical commitment and faithfulness, and he sought to protect and reward it.
And Ruth recognized Boaz's integrity and his rootedness in godly conduct, which made him a safe harbor and a trustworthy leader for her. The relationship blossomed within this structure of high character and a covenant fidelity and mutual respect, not in spite of a lack of character.
This is a crucial takeaway then. They weren't searching for the strongest feeling.
No, they were searching for the strongest character. And because they found it, the result was a union that was robust, functional, and deeply purposeful.
And the sources highlight the profound blessing that came from this. God didn't just bless their marriage with a child.
No, he placed them directly in the lineage of King David and ultimately in the lineage of Jesus.
Which elevates their marriage far beyond a private emotional contract for mutual fulfillment. Their union wasn't just a private success. It was a success so structurally sound and so aligned with God's covenant purpose that it became a critical pillar in human history.
And this brings us right back to the crucial connection this deep dive intends to make, which is encapsulated in Psalm 127, verse 1. Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain.
All their effort is for nothing.
Right. When the ultimate source of character and wisdom and covenant commitment, God, is placed as the foundation, love moves from being fragile to being secure. The efforts of the builders, when they are guided by that divine blueprint, result in a structure that can endure for generations.
As we wrap up this deep dive, we want to frame this information not as some heavy criticism of romance, but as a crucial invitation to rethink how you approach commitment. If you're married and you're struggling, this message is an invitation to rebuild on the right foundation, to start prioritizing the structural integrity, the covenant fidelity, the shared faith, the character discipline over the emotional immediacy of the moment.
And if you are single, this is wisdom that's meant to protect you from the tragic failure of a Samson-style choice. It's a necessary corrective lens through which to evaluate a potential partner.
So the question shouldn't primarily be, how deeply do I feel about this person and how much do they excite me?
No. The question should be, does this person possess the covenant-keeping character, the wisdom to plan ahead, and the spiritual alignment necessary to build an enduring house that can actually withstand true hardship?
We have to reiterate that central warning from Psalm 127. Love is powerful, it is magnetic, it's thrilling, it's necessary for the joy of life.
It is.
But love without God, without wisdom, without character, it collapses under the inevitable pressure of life. To place the weight of lifelong commitment solely on the shifting sands of emotion is to guarantee structural failure when the floods come.
Our final structural analogy would be this. Love is the roof. It provides shelter and beauty, and it defines the home's atmosphere. Wisdom is the framework, defining the structure and drawing the blueprint.
And covenant.
And covenant is the foundation, buried deep beneath the surface, ensuring stability when the storms arrive and providing the unbreakable promise.
So what does this all mean for you listening? Our synthesis today is clear. Love is powerful, but it's not enough. Marriage requires God at the center, wisdom as the framework, and commitment as the glue. When love is rooted in God's covenant design, it doesn't just feel good, it endures.
The sources instruct us to choose wisely and to build carefully. And so the final provocative thought we want to leave you to explore is this. If biblical love is defined by its endurance, and endurance is only achieved through commitment, wisdom, and character, is the true test of love less about the intensity of your feeling and more about the durability of your discipline?
Think about that as you evaluate your own foundations. We appreciate you joining us for the deep dive.